It's interesting. We talk about this YouTube channel with pretty much everybody I meet. There are more Christians out there than you realize. I mean, they're everywhere. And it's nice to have conversations with people. And people always ask, how did this all start? Well, it started with me being an atheist. I wasn't a follower of Christ for the most of my life. I grew up in the Catholic Church, but I believe that the affiliation that I had with the Catholic Church pushed me away from Christ altogether and made me an atheist. I'm not a Catholic today, and I never will be again. I don't want to discuss that today, though. What I do want to discuss is, where do we even begin? You know, with this channel, the first 900 videos are what my family laughingly refers to as Doug Zero. I used to teach people about success. You'll notice all these success books behind me. Well, I would teach people in a motivational way how to have more success in their life, how to make more money, how to be a better husband, how to be a better father. And that's all I talked about. And I did 900 videos. All of those videos are still here on this channel. Then one day somebody said to me, Doug, you're really good at breaking down all these books. And I was breaking them down at an 8th grade level, chapter by chapter. But they said, can you do the same thing with the New Testament of the Holy Bible so that I can better understand it? And I said, oh no, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. When you understand why you don't believe in Zeus, you'll understand why I don't believe in Jesus. And I had all the atheist arguments. I'd watched that show down in Austin, Texas. It's called The Atheist Experience. Cool show. Lots of nice information. But I was just interested. And I think I've always kind of been interested in being a Christian. I think it's just religion that's pushed me away from that in the past. But I kept going, and so did people with their jabs. Oh, you can't do the New Testament. You will never get it. You couldn't understand it anyway, Doug. So you'll notice on this channel, there's the 260 video playlist. I did one 10 to 15 minute video explaining at the 8th grade level each chapter of the New Testament of the Holy Bible. And when I got done doing those 260 videos, everybody noticed except for me that I had changed. And you'll notice the structure of my video approach changed as well. I do one video for the New Testament, and then I do a success video. I do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 success videos. Heck, I think one day I did 19 videos, and that's the most videos I ever did in one day. And slowly, things started to change. Then I would do a New Testament video for the day, and then I'd do a Christ-focused video, maybe something that people were missing in the New Testament. I would go through the New Testament and identify places where people might overlook specific things. I want you to think about this example. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. And these videos are scattered all over on this channel, videos like this, pointing out things that people, for the most part, overlook. When Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well, he walked up to her and asked her for a drink of water. She said, you can get it yourself. He said, if you knew who I am, you would be asking me for water, because the water I give is living water. And then he goes on and tells her about all the things that she's done wrong and all the men she's had and all of her adulterous ways. And it blows this woman away. And she's like, you just told me everything. How did you know this? And she gets so excited about the interaction that she says, I'm going to go back to town and I'm going to tell everyone about you. I'm going to tell everyone that you told me what I have done. You knew. You know what happened in that moment? Most people just see an adulterous woman receive redemption and run back to a town to tell people something. Right then and there, the very first preacher had become. And the very first preacher in history was a woman, as documented in the Holy Bible. So if there were any priests or preachers that were non-female before her, that's fine. But she was the first female preacher that we know about. And she was also the first Christian preacher, because Jesus had not yet sent his disciples out onto the world to preach the good news. So the first was a woman. You go, girl. And, things like that. That's what we talk about. And so slowly, things became 100% Christ focused. I stopped doing the daily motivational videos and just started doing Christ focused videos. And we went from 365,000 subscribers to 600,000 subscribers on this channel. Like that. We were getting about 28,000 new Christians subscribing every single month. It was amazing. The thing was out of control. Still is, but now we have a little bit more organization around it. You're not always ready when Christ is ready for you. Sometimes God does things on his timing, and when it rains, it pours, and boy, you're just not ready for it. And I didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, I have millions of eyes on everything that I'm doing. And I started writing as well at that time. And if you put my name in Google, you're going to find thousands of stories and articles that are Christian focused that I have written and put out there in the digital world. And I write every single day still. For years, I've been writing every day. So you're going to find a lot of good news out there, a lot of cool stories, and a lot of focused items that revolve around Christ and his teachings. And I think you're just going to love that. But if you don't currently follow Christ, you may ask yourself, where do I even begin? Now, in my case, the transition was completely out of my control. I was not looking to become a Christian. God made me a Christian. He just put things in my path and began using me. And I mean, I want to say he began using me without my permission, but initially that's kind of what it was. My focus for this channel was something completely different. And I didn't have any intention of becoming the voice of Christianity on YouTube. I was just Doug, trying to teach people how to make more money and be a nicer husband and a better father. That's what I cared about. And Christ showed me that he cared about me, and he changed my focus. And slowly, the videos started to migrate toward his word. Not intentionally, it just happened. I can't even tell you. I would be upstairs in the morning. I have a notepad and I would have ideas for videos, and that's what I was going to do for the day. I was only doing the one New Testament video, and then all the other videos I was doing were, and ideas that I had were focused around success and teaching people the values and the things that I was learning from the self-help books I was reading. And things started changing, and I didn't have anything to do with that. But God started changing me, and he said, hey, look, you're not doing this anymore. You're going to do what I want you to do, which is this. I think God might have said, and I'm just thinking he might have said this. He doesn't actually speak to me. I'm not crazy. But he does speak to me in certain ways. And the feeling that I get is that he gave me a 365,000 subscriber YouTube channel, a tremendous voice in the world. I mean, that's a huge platform to be speaking from. And he said, you know what? I want you to use this megaphone that I've helped you build to share my word and to share stories and use the gifts that I've given you in a way that's going to allow me to reach more people. And it's just kind of cool, There's nothing special about me. I'm not anybody that would normally be picked. I'm like anybody else in the Bible that God picked, questioning, why did you pick me? You ever notice that? All the people in the Bible that God helped or chose, they would always ask, why did you choose me? I'm not worthy. I'm not the one. There's so many other better people out there you could pick. I was the longest clinically documented death case in America, but I'm a brain damaged handicap guy. I'm partially paralyzed on the left side of my body. I got a lazy eye. I'm bald headed. I got to tell you, there's a lot of not so good things about me. I'm not the perfect guy that you would think God would pick and give this kind of voice to. Because anytime you look online or you hear somebody talking about Jesus, they've got a silk suit on and gold rings and slicked back hair and they're a fantastic speaker. And I always thought that's so fake. But you know what? Millions of people, that's what they migrate to. And I just never understood that. Why not have a little realism in your life? Some real realism where you hear the words of Christ without needing a fancy facade or some fancy clothes. I wear band t-shirts every day on this because I'm a real guy. I show up as I really am. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. I'm not saying that I'm special in God's eyes, but I think we all are. And for some reason, he picked me. And I want to get back to, where do you begin? How do you begin following Christ if you don't now? Well, in my opinion, absent of starting a YouTube channel and building a platform and allowing God to begin to utilize it in his own special way, I believe you just begin with Jesus himself. Not with trying to look religious or trying to impress people, and not trying to act like you have everything figured out. Because you know what? It's tough. Faith is tough. It's not easy. And to follow Christ is not easy. It's easier to not follow Christ than it is to follow him. But you know what? Jesus asks a lot of people who follow him. He asks nothing of people who don't. Think about that. So you start with Jesus. And Jesus, he never told broken people to fix themselves before they came to him. He did not tell tired people to become strong first. And he didn't tell sinners to clean up every part of their life before they could speak to him. You know what he said? He said, come to me. And that means you can come honestly. Tired, confused, ashamed. You know what? Come with questions and come with doubts and express those doubts to the Lord. Tell him, hey, look, I have doubts about this whole thing, and maybe you have doubts about Jesus himself. I have doubts. I don't believe that you really existed, or whatever it might be. Bring everything to him and let God handle it and watch the answers come. When I first started doing this channel from a Christian standpoint, we would have the weirdest experiences. There were people I had never met before just coming up to me randomly and beginning to talk to me about Christianity and about Jesus. These are people I'd never met before, and I never had these experiences ever. But I had a lot of questions, and people were just showing up out of the blue and answering these questions that I had. Nobody in my family can explain it. They were all there, and they all witnessed it, and it's 100% true. But people that I had never met before were just coming out of the woodwork and talking to me, and the conversation that we would have would be directly related to a question that I had presented to Christ. I don't believe in this, or I don't understand this, or why this? And the answers would just start coming in I'm going to say the strangest ways, because it was strange. You can come with your questions and your doubts. You know what? If your life is messy, that's okay. You don't have to pretend with Jesus. And that may be one of the first things to understand. You can tell him the truth. You can say things like, I don't believe this, or Jesus, I don't understand this. I'm tired. I'm afraid. I don't know how to pray. I made mistakes, and I've made a lot of mistakes too. That's a great one for Christ. I want to believe, but I need help. And I used to say that all the time because I didn't believe, but I wanted to. And that changed. I can't even explain why or how, or I didn't do anything to make it change, but it did. And it was just because I asked. It's crazy. And it's not weak. It's something that I believe God really, really, really appreciates. And that's honesty. And honesty is a much better starting place than pretending to be religious. Some people think prayer has to sound fancy. It does not. Prayer is talking to God, and it can be simple. It can even be quiet. It can be as simple as one sentence. It can happen in a car, at work, in bed, outside, or while you're sitting alone with a heavy heart. And you know what? You don't have to start by going to church. I'm going to tell you a story. The thief on the cross who was being crucified next to Christ. He wasn't religious. He didn't go to church. He didn't request forgiveness for his sins. He just turned to Christ and he said, "Remember me when you go to heaven." And Jesus turned to him and said, "Truly I promise you, today you will be with me in paradise." Now that throws all the religious rules out the window. Religion teaches you, oh, you need a man to stand over you and give you penance and forgive your sins, all that. Christ showed time and time again, his compassion and God's grace do not come to you through the hands of man. It comes to you directly from God. And you see, you don't have to use perfect words with Christ. You just have to talk to him. That's it. Just like the thief on the cross. Lord, I want to be with you. And that's all you have to say. And you'll be with him. And more importantly, he'll be with you. And your life will change. And things in your life will get so much better than it is right now. I've had success, money, I can have anything I want. But my life today, outside of all of those luxuries, is so much better. And I can't explain it. The only thing that's changed is that Christ has come into my life. And you know what? When he came into my life, a lot of people who were in my life went out of my life. And I now see why they're not here anymore. Because everybody is not meant to walk with you when you are walking with Christ. And that's 100% okay. You'll notice things change in your life. It'll be amazing. You won't believe it. It'll blow you away. I can't even express all the changes that have occurred in my life since I became a believer. But it's been truly amazing. And one thing I notice is that a lot of what I'm learning about Christ as I go through the New Testament quite often is what religion says about him is not always who he actually is. I see religions asking people to do a lot of things that Christ never taught. So what I recommend is go look for him yourself. Start reading one of the Gospels in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Go watch the videos here on this channel. I'm not trying to promote the YouTube channel, but I do have a playlist and a video for every single chapter in the New Testament. So these books that I'm talking about here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, these books show the life, the words, the actions, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. You know what? Don't rush through them. Read them slowly. And some things I want you to pay attention to while you're reading the New Testament. I want you to watch how Jesus treats people. Watch how he speaks to the hurting. Watch how he responds to people who are ashamed. Watch how he treats people others pushed away. Watch how he deals with proud religious people. Pay attention to that. Watch how he forgives. Watch how he always tells the truth. And the one thing I love watching about Christ is how he loves. Many people have rejected religion, but they have never really looked closely at Jesus. They seem to have anger. They seem to have pressure. They seem to maybe suffer from church hurt or hypocrisy. But you know what? I've seen people use God's name in a harsh way, and that's why I say religion is not the place to start, because Jesus himself is actually different. He's full of truth, but he's also full of mercy. He does not ignore sin, but he also does not crush people who are already broken. Jesus calls people out of darkness, and he does it because he loves them. So do not start by trying to become religious. You know, the place to find Christ is not always in a church. Start by looking at Jesus himself. Pick up the user manual. It's called the New Testament. Read it more than once. Understand how the mechanics work. Understand who Jesus really is. And then take one small step of trust. Because following Jesus is not just believing he exists, it's learning to trust him with your life. So take that step. And it doesn't mean you'll understand everything right away, because you won't. Heck, I don't. Can't believe I just said that. My apologies. But it doesn't mean you're going to understand everything right away. I didn't understand everything right away, and I still obviously make mistakes. But you know what? The first disciples, they didn't understand everything either. Notice how they always have questions, because it's not easy to follow Christ. But they followed him while they were still learning. They had questions, fears, they made mistakes, they failed. They misunderstood things, and Jesus just kept working with them. And that should give every person hope, because you don't have to be perfect to start following Christ. You just have to be willing to start. And when Jesus begins to work in your life, he will begin changing things. I want you to be ready for that, because he will. And he may begin touching anger, bitterness, pride, fear, your secret habits, your shame, relationships, your choices, your way of thinking. These will all begin to change. And it's going to blow you away. You're going to love it. You're going to be like, why wasn't I living this way before? What was I even thinking? Because Christ brings freedom. He brings healing and forgiveness, and a completely new way of life. But remember this, change is part of the journey, but it's not a requirement before the journey starts. You come to Jesus as you are, then you let him change you as you walk with him. And that's important, because many people say, I need to get my life together. But you know what? You don't have to get your life together before you come to God. You come to Jesus because you cannot fully get your life together without him. You bring him the real you, the tired you, the confused you, the guilty you, the broken you, the searching you. And then you keep coming back every single day. Because following Jesus is not one emotional moment and then everything is easy. It's not just one day a week. It's a daily direction. Some days you're going to feel close to God, and you know what? Some days you may feel nothing. Some days prayer is going to feel natural. And some days it's going to feel hard. Some days you're going to feel strong, and some days you're going to fall back into old ways. And when that happens, do not run away from Jesus. Just keep coming back. That is part of following him. You will fall, and then you need to get up and come back. You may struggle, but come back. You may get confused, but come back. You may on some days feel weak, but come back. You see, faith grows as you keep returning to Jesus. You also need people around you. And I want you to think about that because as your relationships change, as you become a follower of Christ, you're going to find that the people around you are no longer the fake people. And they're not the perfect people either. And they're not people that will make you feel like you have to hide anything. These will be honest people who are also trying to follow Jesus. And you need people who can pray with you, encourage you, help you, and remind you of the truth when life gets heavy. And for some, I understand church does matter. You know what? Christian community matters. But the goal is not to become religious for appearances. The goal is to just follow Jesus with other people who love him. And you know what? A healthy church should help you move closer to Jesus if you decide to go to church. But I want you to remember this: church should not replace Jesus. It should not make you feel like God only loves you when you look perfect. It should point you back to grace, truth, forgiveness, and a new life. Not a bunch of internal rituals and ladders that you need to climb to reach God. Because you know what? That's not right. When Christ died on the cross, the veil, the veil tore. And when the veil tore, we no longer needed priests to come between us and Christ. The Old Testament, priests stood between God and humans. After Christ came and died on the cross, no one stands between us and God. And that's important to remember because there's a lot of religions out there that are still using priests and keeping people tied back in that Old Testament way of thinking. Well, you know what? There's a new guy in town. He has his own book. It's called the New Testament, and it changed everything. Do not let people's failure keep you from the Savior, because people will try to misrepresent him, maybe knowingly or unknowingly. Most of the Christians I know never picked up a Bible in their life for the most part, don't know anything about the New Testament. They only know what their friends told them or what some guy standing on a stage in front of them, above them, told them. Go find out for yourself. The book's free online. Read the New Testament. Read the rule book. Figure it out. See who Christ actually was. It'll change your life. Because people can make faith feel heavy and cold. But you know what? Jesus is still Jesus. He's gentle with the broken, patient with the confused, merciful to sinners. And he's still calling people like you to come home. So where do you start? Well, start with one honest prayer. Start with reading about Jesus. Start with telling him the truth. Start with asking him to help you. And for me, that's the most important one. You know what? Asking Christ to help you is one step of obedience. And keep coming back when you fail. Start with Jesus, not religion. Because religion without Jesus is just pressure. Religion without Jesus just becomes performance. Religion without Jesus becomes fear. And religion without Jesus, in my opinion, is just pretending. Because Jesus brings life, mercy, truth, forgiveness, and hope. And Jesus brings you back to God. So maybe today it does not need to be complicated. Maybe today you do not need to have every answer. Maybe today you don't need to fix everything all at once. Maybe today you just need to turn your heart toward Jesus and say, Jesus, I don't know where to start, but I want to follow you. Help me begin. My name is Douglas Vandergraph, and I believe in Jesus Christ. God bless every single one of you. Every single one.